Hello everybody and welcome to the Royal Ramble podcast. I am your host, Zach Stevens, and we are here to review the pay-per-view event Great Balls of Fire from July 9th, 2017 out of the American Airlines Center in Dallas, Texas. As always, guys, you can follow us on Twitter at Ramble_cast. Again, that is Ramble_cast. We're about to 400 followers over on Twitter now, so thank you so much for everyone following us over there and checking out what we have to say. Definitely thank you so much for following us. Also, our YouTube page. Check us out over there. Hit that subscribe button. That is where you're going to find the highest quality episodes that we have to offer. It also has all of our backlog of our previous episodes. So definitely check us out over there. That is the place to go to listen to the Royal Ramble podcast. But of course, we are also on Podbean. If you want to listen to us on the go, you want to download that Podbean app and check us out, on the road or at work, wherever you are, check us out at royalrambleradio.podbean.com. Now, before we head into this Great Balls of Fire review, there are a few news items that we absolutely have to talk about. Number one, AJ Styles defeats Kevin Owens at a house show for the United States title. Very strange that they decided to do this. I honestly can't believe that they made this change on a house show, considering we just had that number one contenders match this past Tuesday, and the whole build leading up to that with AJ fighting Chad Gable and all of that stuff. And then for them to just do the switch on a house show is very strange. The question then becomes why? Why did they decide to do this? Number one, I think it's pretty simple. The number one reason is that house show ticket sales have been down dramatically lately. So obviously doing something like this is going to make it feel to the audience that anything can happen on a house show. And then this, in turn, may make people want to go and buy tickets for the next house show. If they feel like they may see a title change at a house show or, something crazy go down there, people are more inclined to buy a ticket for the show then. Normally, when you go to a house show, you're thinking, well, this isn't part of the storyline. This isn't really canon. We have mixed brand matches on this thing. So nothing of worth is actually going to come from these house shows. However, when they do something like this, when they do a title change, it instantly piques interest into these things. And who knows, man, maybe more people will be inclined to go see these and buy more tickets. Number two, though, and I think this is even more important, is that it gets us more interested in tuning in on Tuesday. This gives us a hook. It makes us want to see what's going to happen. We want to see the fallout from this, and the only way to see that is to tune in on SmackDown Live this Tuesday. So that is one thing that SmackDown has been doing extremely well lately, is finding a way to get the audience hooked and leave us on sort of a cliffhanger to make us want to watch the next episode. This is something that Raw does not do whatsoever. They completely fail at it each week, whereas SmackDown really kind of makes us want to watch wrestling and makes us want to tune in each week because they do things and they build up their next show. If you look at the last couple of shows they've had, starting with the Money in the Bank pay-per-view, we obviously had Carmella win in a highly controversial fashion. Then everyone wanted to tune in on Tuesday to see what the fallout of that would be. Then obviously Daniel Bryan announced that they would be doing a rematch of the Money in the Bank ladder match, so we had to tune in the next Tuesday to see the fallout from that. So this is something that SmackDown Live has been doing a great job of, and I think this just does that again. Obviously, we all want to see what's going to happen on Tuesday. We want to see where they're going to go with this. Kevin Owens has been doing the Face of America gimmick for a while now. He obviously has new Titantron graphics. Everyone has been calling him by that new name, the Face of America. So are they really just going to throw all of that out the window and just put the title on AJ and go from there? Or are we going to have their rematch happen at Battleground and will KO, get the title back? Or, there's a lot of different possibilities that they could go with this. So that's what makes me intrigued. And I do think it was very weird for them to do the title change, not televised and kind of underground at this house show. But in the end, I think it's going to help ratings, and I think it's going to get people more interested. So either way, I think that's a good move, and it'll be very interesting to see where they go from here. Is it going to be AJ versus KO at Battleground, or have they completely changed their minds as far as that goes and are going a completely new direction? We will have to see on Tuesday. The number two newsworthy item to come out of this weekend was Austin Aries being released. This is a huge kicker, guys. Such a big loss for WWE. Aries is a fucking beast. He has been awesome since he came up to the main roster, even though he's been stuck with the whole 205 Live shit. Obviously, Austin Aries is a veteran here. He knows, how to carry himself, and he obviously knows that he is better than what 205 Live is offering right now. If you look at 205 Live and they tell you, hey, you're going to go wrestle on 205 Live, you're thinking, fuck, I don't want to do this. Look at the shitty storylines that are going on over there. Look at basically no one is watching this show. And Austin Aries is better than that. Look at his run in NXT. Look at his runs in ROH or TNA. He's always been higher than that 205 level. So obviously, it makes sense that he is unhappy. However, there are a lot of rumors swirling as to why he was released. One saying that he asked for his release mainly because he is unhappy about being on 205 Live and, thinking that he should have been competing on the main roster. And then there's another one saying that he may have been released or fired because he was a nuisance in the locker room. He was someone that was difficult to work with. The writers apparently did not like working with him. So a lot of different rumors swirling about this. So not really sure exactly why it's taking place, but either way, it is a huge loss. WWE absolutely mishandled this guy. I would love to see him come back at some point, But if the rumors are true and he actually burned his bridges or he feels that his bridges have been burnt, I don't think we're going to see him again in the WWE. And that's a shame, man, because I think Austin Aries could have come to the main roster and actually had an impact. I think there's plenty of room for him on the main roster. He doesn't have to be forced into 205 Live just because he's a shorter guy. I think he could have flourished on the main roster. If you think about some of the matchups we could have gotten, Seth Rollins versus Aries or anybody against Aries would have been entertaining or more entertaining than constantly seeing him lose to Neville. So obviously Austin Aries not happy with where he was. The WWE didn't really, gel well with him, obviously. So they are releasing Austin Aries, and he is free to go do his own thing after about 90 days, I believe. So we will either see him back on WWE or he will be out in the indies doing his own thing. But either way, it is a huge loss, and he will be sorely missed, man, because he was really the only one to give Neville a actual legitimate shot at losing. He was the only one to live up to Neville's level, as he likes to say. And it's sad that we're not going to see any more of those matches, even though Neville consistently beat him every single time they fought. So Austin Aries released. AJ wins the U.S. title. Definitely a very crazy start to the week of WWE. Alright guys, so let's head into the Great Balls of Fire questions. Obviously, I write down these questions before the show starts. Some of my thoughts that, we should be thinking about as we head into tonight's show. Number one, can the worst named pay-per-view end up being one of the best cards of the year? There are so many great matches on here. Obviously Roman and Braun, Sasha and Alexa, and of course, Joe and Lesnar. So many great matches. The card is top loaded. There are a lot of other matches on this card that really don't excite me, but the last half of these matches are pretty intense, and it's something that I really want to see. So I'm excited for this card, but will they be able to live up to the hype? That is the question here. The second question I have is, will they make any title changes tonight? My predictions that I made at the end of our Raw review last week, I essentially said there would be no title changes tonight, and that is unfortunate because that means that none of the story really changes here, and honestly, nothing really changed. So, will they make any title changes tonight? Will Sasha get it from Alexa? Will Joe beat Brock? That is all the things that I wanted to think about, and if Joe was able to beat Brock tonight, that would shock the world. That would leave people interested in seeing Raw. We were just talking about how SmackDown likes to hook people in by doing crazy things and building up for their next TV show. Well, if Joe was able to beat Brock tonight, you talk about a hook, man. People are going to tune into that episode of Raw to see what happens. So, are they going to have the balls to do that tonight? It is called Great Balls of Fire. Will they have Great Balls of Fire and have the balls to put that title on Joe? We will have to find out. And then the final question, there are some matches on this card that I am absolutely hyped for. There are plenty of them. However, there are also plenty of matches that we have seen tons of times before. Obviously, Hardys versus Cesaro and Sheamus. This is a tag match that we have been consistently getting since WrestleMania, and I am absolutely sick of seeing. The other one that I do not want to see anymore is obviously Miz versus Ambrose for the IC title. This is something that we have been seeing since basically December of last year, and we're just sick of seeing these matches. So they are going to have to go above and beyond to get my interest when I'm watching these matches. Will they do that tonight? Obviously, we're going to find out. So we start off with a pre-show. This was basically a nothing pre-show. Neville versus Akira Tozawa was the only match that we got here. They did not do Finn Balor versus Elias Sampson, and they did not do Goldust versus R-Truth tonight. So those are two matches that are still waiting in the wings. However, I kind of wish both of those would just kind of get dropped and we can get Finn Balor back into some actual title matches, something of importance. And the Goldust R-Truth thing, come on guys, let's just drop that completely. We don't need to see any more of that garbage. No one wants to see that anymore. We have a horrible sit-down interview with Dana Brooke. She's on the panel, just completely horrible interview here. Completely unnatural, sounding nervous the entire time. Emma interrupts her at one point, telling her to come on, and then Dana says they have something to talk about. Who cares? David Otunga is on the pre-show panel yet again. I think this is a noteworthy thing because he's obviously not getting his announcing role back, which, thank God. I love Booker T in his current role, and if Otunga actually replaces him at some point, that is going to be a devastating blow to this announcer's table. So I'm really hoping they keep Otunga on the pre-show and keep him away from announcing TV matches. We also have an interview backstage with Charlie and Paul. He's basically taking Twitter questions, and we all know those Twitter segments are fucking cringeworthy, so nothing really of note there either. Paul, though, he does say that this match will not be a quick F5 and pin. He talks about how this match has been marketed as a fight, and he is damn right. You know, this is what I wanted to see. I wanted to see a legitimate fight out of these two guys, so I'm hoping that it's not a quick F5 and pin situation like we've been seeing out of Brock Lesnar lately. I'm hoping that we get a longer match, an extended match, and we really get to see both of these guys butt heads and go at it. So obviously we have the Neville versus Akira Tozawa match tonight. Instant thought here, if you want to make the cruiserweights mean something, if you want people to tune into 205 Live, sticking this match on the pre-show does not exactly fill me with confidence. I'm not excited for seeing this on the pay-per-view card necessarily. However, putting them on the pre-show basically tells me that I shouldn't care. And that's what's the problem here. If they really wanted 205 Live to actually increase ratings and they wanted to make this something important, they wouldn't just be treating them as a sideshow and pushing them onto the pre-show. I'm pretty sure the crowd is probably going to pop for this match because usually the crowd is pretty awake during the pre-show matches, which makes sense because, everyone's filing into the arena. They want to see something, and, people are excited right as they get there. So energy is at its highest during these pre-show matches, but regardless, putting them on the pre-show tells me that we should not care about this, and that is the essential problem here. And it's probably a big reason why Austin Aries decided to leave in the first place. There isn't an emphasis on 205 Live, and they are treating these guys like a sideshow, which is a big problem. And those purple ropes do play a part into it. When you see those purple ropes go on, it's almost like a trigger in your mind that says, hey, I can tune out now. I don't need to pay attention to this. So they did have a new announcer on with Corey Graves. I'm not sure who it was. It wasn't Tom Phillips. It was some other guy, but I do like him. He sounds good. He does sound dangerously similar to Corey Graves, though, so when they were both talking, it was kind of hard to decipher which one was which, but hey, I'd like the new commentary guy, and at least they're introducing some new people here. The match starts. Tozawa immediately gets the crowd starting to do the ah chants. Crowd is obviously into it like I expected. The pre-show match pop is an actual thing. Both of these guys start off hot. Eventually, Tozawa goes for a suicide dive, but Neville meets him with a kick before he comes through the ropes. Neville hits Akira in the head with a kick. Neville then tosses Tozawa to the outside. The beatdown continues on the outside for a while. And then we have a commercial break on the network, which I have no idea why we can't continue to watch the match when we have paid to see this. We're getting an ad for the network, which I'm already watching this on the network, so it doesn't really make sense to feed me a commercial for the network that I'm already watching. But anyway, We come back. Neville goes for a pin, but Tozawa gets the shoulder up in 2. Neville then starts stomping Tozawa's head to the beat of the awe chants from the crowd. Very nice heelish move out of Neville here, really showing that he has elevated himself above and beyond 205 level at this point. Tozawa then gets in control. He hits some kicks, then misses one. Then he slides under Neville and hits him with a German suplex. Tozawa heads to the top rope, but Neville is able to roll out of the ring. Then Akira hits 2 devastating suicide dives onto Neville. The last one looking really good, really looking like they had a head-on-head collision here. Neville got knocked the fuck out, just completely hit the ground. Akira goes for the pin after throwing Neville back in the ring, but Neville is able to kick out. Tozawa then jumps onto Neville from the apron, but Neville catches him mid-air. Tozawa then gets him in a crazy-ass pretzel-like hold while Neville is standing. Neville is then able to fall and grab the ropes to break the hold, however. Neville gets a series of nice kicks onto Tozawa while he's hanging onto the ropes, ending with a nasty drop kick. We have a pin, then Tozawa kicks out in 2. Neville then hits an elbow to Tozawa. He heads to the top rope, goes for the red arrow, but no one is home. Tozawa is able to roll out of the way. He then grabs Neville, rolls him up for another near fall. Akira then hits the Shining Wizard, heads to the top rope again. He goes for the Senton Bomb. He hits it. He tries to grab Neville for the pin, which probably would have won him the match, but Neville is able to roll out of the ring in time. Akira gets out of the ring, throws Neville back in. Neville then throws him into the top rope for a rack. Then Neville kicks the ropes to really add insult to injury, really, driving that rope into his nuts there. The ref is tending to Tozawa, telling him, oh, you can't fight him yet. Hold on, give him some time to recover. Tozawa finally gets up, eats a kick from Neville. Neville goes for the pin. 1, 2, 3, Neville wins. I thought this was a decent match. There were some really nice exchanges between both of these guys. It's definitely something that I wouldn't mind seeing again, which later on in the show we did get a tease that we will probably seeing a rematch. However, guys, I just don't think Akira Tozawa is going to be dethroning Neville. I don't think he's the guy to do it. If you would have said that, Austin Aries is going to challenge him, I would say, hey, that is somebody that I think could dethrone Neville at this point. But obviously, that is not going to happen. Tozawa nearly had Neville until he rolled out after that senton, though. That was something that they did say that, hey, Tozawa could beat this guy. So it was a very close match, and I'm sure, Titus is going to come on to Raw or 205 Live. He's going to get the rematch, and we're going to have another one. So obviously it was a cheap shot that ended up beating Tozawa. However, who honestly cares, man? I mean, it's 205 Live. It's the Cruiserweights. They're putting them on the pre-show, telling us that we should not care. So why do we care? We don't. Again, if the WWE continues to treat the Cruiserweights like an unimportant sideshow act, then they're going to be received as such. And unfortunately, guys, if they keep doing it, 205 Live in this Cruiserweight division will die off. So hopefully they can fix that stuff, drop the purple ropes, and really integrate the Cruiserweights into the main roster so that they don't feel like such a side act and such a non-noteworthy segment. So the pay-per-view eventually starts, and we immediately start off with Bray Wyatt's music. It instantly hits after Michael Cole goes into his opening intro spiel. We are subjected to Bray's long-ass intro, as always. Seth comes out to a pretty big, nice pop. The match starts. Both guys start in lockups. Seth dodges a clothesline, but Bray does the creepy backwards handstand thing, so Seth obviously has to get spooked from that. Eventually, Seth gets Bray to the outside for a suicide dive, but Bray catches him with a right hand before he can go through the ropes. Corey then calls out Seth's finisher for the first time, so that's one big complaint that I've had, man. They do not have a name for Seth's new finisher, and Corey Graves finally calls it the spin out knee. So is that the name that we have now? Who knows? It's a very literal name. It's not like, it's not the V-trigger, which everyone likes to call it. Obviously, this is very similar to Kenny Omega's finisher, the V-trigger. So they obviously aren't going to call it that, but maybe it's now called the spin-out knee when referring to Seth Rollins. We will have to see. Eventually, Bray goes for a pin, but Rollins kicks out. We get a very loud "Let's Go Rollins" chants. Bray gets Seth to the apron again and hits a DDT to Seth. Bray has another pin here, but Rollins gets the shoulder up. Wyatt goes for a running senton, but Rollins is able to roll out of the way. It's pretty much been all Wyatt up to this point. He has been dominating the open part of this match. Seth tries to go for a Falcon Arrow, but he can't get Bray up. He then just hits a drop kick and then a suicide dive to Wyatt. Rollins hits an elbow off the top rope that was nearly phenomenal. Very close to gimmick infringement here with that one, Seth. It looked like the phenomenal forearm, so be careful with that, man. You don't want AJ Styles taking you to gimmick infringement court. So Seth then hits a sling blade onto Wyatt. Then there's a very nice blockbuster onto Bray for a near fall. Bray nearly gets the Sister Abigail, but Rollins is able to slip out. He bounces off the ropes, and Bray hits Seth with a huge clothesline. Seth just goes flipping over, hitting the mat. Bray goes for a suplex, but then Seth reverses it into a Falcon Arrow for a near fall. Very nice transition there. Bray is completely out cold at this point. Seth gets to the top post, but Bray gets up and kicks him down. Bray has this very awkward move here where he just kind of rips Seth off of the top post for a near fall. It almost looked like he wanted to go for a DDT from the top rope, but he just didn't, and he just pulled Seth off instead. So very strange here. Not surely what that was, but it was a near fall nonetheless. Bray then hits a choke slam to Seth. Then Wyatt shouts out that this is what a god looks like. And all of a sudden I'm thinking, oh god, you're about to eat the pin, bro. You better shut up. Then Seth starts to beat down on Bray. Bray gets a cheap shot to the eyes of Seth. The ref does not see this. Then Bray gets back in the ring. He hits his Sister Abigail. 1, 2, 3. And Bray Wyatt wins. So huge surprise out of that. Bray Wyatt never wins matches, especially those on pay-per-view. So honestly, I'm thinking, whoa, is this a dream? Someone better pinch me because Bray Wyatt just beat the cover boy of WWE 2K18. What is going on here? Obviously, I've had a ton of criticism of Bray Wyatt lately. He always talks a big game, and then he goes out there and loses. He never backs up his words, and that is my main problem with his character, is that he always goes out there, he does these cryptic long promos saying he's a god, and then he just goes out there and eats a pin clean every single time. So this was a win that was absolutely needed for the character of Bray Wyatt. I am glad that they let him go over here tonight, even though the odds seem to be stacked against him. Obviously, Seth Rollins being the cover boy and Seth just being Seth Rollins in general. Obviously, though, this match in the end was meaningless. I mean, there were no stakes attached to it, but beating Seth Rollins is still a big deal. I'm not going to take anything away from Bray Wyatt. He needed that victory, and getting one over Seth Rollins is a big deal, and it's something that can help Bray kind of get some momentum and maybe instill some fear into the face of fear once again, because that is something that has been severely lacking as of late. Overall, this match was pretty good. I think it was probably a good idea to start off the pay-per-view with this match, because this card, like I said, has some really good matches on it. And the booking this match later on in the night is kind of a buffer between one of the other important matches. I think it would have yielded way less of a reaction from this Dallas crowd. So starting them off with this match on this show, I think was a good move and was a good booking tactic by WWE. Next up, we have a backstage interview. Charlie interviews the Hardy Boys. We get huge delete chants here from this Dallas crowd. She goes on to ask them what they'll do to get an edge tonight. Matt just basically says that he watched cartoons tonight with his wife and kids, and he says it's all about stamina, mental and physical. Jeff then says it takes losing more teeth. No, I'm sorry. Jeff says if it takes losing more teeth to get the titles back, he will do it. He says they break barriers and they break bars, obviously referring to the whole "we are the bar" saying that Cesaro and Sheamus always has. My thoughts on this little promo here. This was such a far contrast from broken Matt Hardy. I mean, he's sitting there talking about cartoons and shit. We did have a few broken hints. He used words like delightful and splendid, but these were way, way more toned down. I just really wish that they could get their brokenness on TV already, because for me, the nostalgia of the Hardy Boys is completely worn off at this point, and a lot of that has to do with them consistently getting booked against this tag team, Cesaro and Sheamus. So it's got me feeling very bored of the Hardy Boys lately, and I'm just hoping that they can finally get that broken character onto WWE television, because it is severely needed at this point. Next up, we have a long highlight package showing the history of the Enzo and Cass breakup. This was done very well. It was also pretty long too. It was so long, in fact, that I'm starting to think that, man, maybe this highlight package is going to end up being longer than their actual match, but we will see. Like I said on our Raw review, though, the only way to make this Enzo and Cass match work is if Cass just goes out there and beats him in a dominant and easy fashion. This should not be a 10-minute match. This should be a quick win for Cass, and it should make him look as strong as possible, because they're going to need to do that if they're going to push him as a solo act now. They're going to have to find a way to elevate this guy and make him seem dominant. So if he goes out there and has a 10 to 15-minute match with little Enzo, that's not going to do him any good. That's going to do more harm than good. So we'll see what happens in this match. So match number 2, Enzo versus Cass. Enzo comes out to the Enzo and Cass music as usual. So this is officially his theme song now. We have a big Cass hole sign in the crowd, which I definitely expected that chant from tonight. That was one of the more noteworthy sayings from Raw this past week. Enzo cuts a promo talking about how last year in this same arena, Cass and him came to the main roster for their television debut. He says that was love, but this is war, and all is fair in love and war. He quotes his favorite Sinatra song, talking about he was high in April, shot down in May. He tells Cass if he wants to come out here and stomp out his dream with a 16-size boot, go ahead, because he's a dreamer. We get loud Enzo chants here. Really, really great promo from Enzo. Easily one of the best promos of his career. I think it was honestly even better than the one that we got on Raw this past week. Just really great emotional stuff. I would highly suggest you go back and watch this. Did not get a single what chant whatsoever. People respect what this guy has to say, and I think that's very important, and it's something that he's going to have to use if he truly is going to be a solo act from here on out. If he doesn't go into like a managerial position and starts managing some guys, and he's actually a solo star, it's going to live or die by these promos that he does. And as long as he can keep cutting promos like this, I think he does have some success in the future waiting him. We get this, after he ends his long, passionate promo, though, he ends it by doing the SAWFT chant, which Cass usually does. After this, Cass comes out, and holy shit, we get Cass's new music. It was very generic-sounding music. However, I kind of liked it. I know a lot of people were saying it was too generic. Sounds like they just came up with it out of nowhere. But I think it's a really good song for him, and it really puts over the fact that he is this big, badass heel. That's kind of the vibe I was getting from it. I don't think it's something that, people are going to be downloading on iTunes. It's not going to be hitting the iTunes charts or anything like that. But I think that this is something that helps get over Cass as that big badass heel that we need him to be. And who knows, man? I mean, I think it fits his character, and we'll see if he's able to live up to that expectation of being that dominant guy now. So as soon as it starts, Enzo comes at Cass right off the bat. He's starting the punches. He's trying to get offense going, really playing up that he's quicker and more agile than Cass is. Enzo then gets him in the corner and starts beating him down. Eventually, Cass just hits him with a shoulder tackle and sends Enzo flying across the mat. Cass gets Enzo in the corner, starts beating him down and stomping a hole into Enzo. This is where we start getting the Cass hole chants. Good job from Big D there. Cass starts tossing Enzo around by his neck, just completely ragdolling him at this point. Enzo tries to attack Cass, but he just kind of shakes off the attacks like they're nothing, completely no-selling them. Cass hits the big splash to Enzo in the corner as more Cass hole chants rain down on him. Cass gets Enzo to the top rope for some clubbing blows to Enzo's back. We then get some Let's Go Enzo chants, really trying to get Enzo back into it. Cass constantly taunting Enzo in the ring, telling him to come on and just talking shit to him the entire time. Then Cass just picks Enzo up over his head and throws him to the short side of the ring, nearly into the crowd over the barricade. Holy shit, he just completely launched him. Enzo took a huge bump here. Enzo is barely able to get back in the ring before the ref hits a count of 10. He gets to 9 and Enzo rolls back in. Cass at this point can't believe that Enzo is getting back into the ring to fight some more. Enzo Amore can barely even stand at this point. Cass just then kind of shrugs his shoulders, hits the big boot, goes for a pin. 1, 2, 3, Cass wins. Like I said, this needed to be a quick match, and it was. However, this wasn't really the convincing beatdown I was expecting here. Obviously, Cass looked dominant, but he didn't just job out to Enzo in 2 seconds. This wasn't, one big boot and it was over. This was a little bit longer than that. They let Enzo do a little offense here, even though it was kind of weak. Cass was pretty much in control from then on out from the very get-go. The toss to the outside was the big spot here. Enzo definitely took a serious beating, but I really think that Cass has an uphill battle from here, guys. He's going to have to learn how to work more heelish in his matches and really play up his devastating nature more. This was a nice start, though. I will say that. I think the song is going to help him get over more as a heel than anything, even though it is kind of generic. Overall, though, I think this match did get the job done. What they were trying to, portray with this match, I think it was accomplished, even though I really want Cass to start looking a bit stronger in the future. I'm very interested to see where they go with him from here on out. Obviously, I do not want to see a rematch with Cass and Enzo. That needs to be completely done at this point. No more of that. They need to find a new feud for Cass and go from there. He has a huge future in front of him, guys. This is something that is very important for Cass, and he is either going to swim or sink. And we will have to find out what happens, man. He is going to have to learn to live without the mouthpiece of Enzo Amore. He's going to have to learn to talk on his own and cut his own promos. Will he be able to do it in a serious and heelish fashion? That's something that we're going to have to wait and see, man. So we head into our next match, which is the 30-minute Iron Man match. Whoever gets the most falls in 30 minutes wins and gets the tag team titles. Obviously, we've seen this matchup so many times, and now we're going to be subjected to a 30-minute version of this match. The crowd was really into this match from the get-go, though. Honestly, I was quite surprised at it, but if you look at it, I mean, the Hardys, they're going to be over no matter where they go. But what I was really thinking was that I have a feeling that this crowd is going to start dying towards the last couple of minutes of this match. So this is the first title match of the pay-per-view card outside of the Cruiserweight one. So if the Hardys are able to win, they will get back the tag team titles. I love the opening of this match, though. I've been complaining that we've seen this matchup way too many times. However, I actually kind of like this match. I'm not going to lie. I kind of got into this a little bit. As soon as the bell rings, Sheamus is in the ring with Matt. Then Cesaro just runs into the ring out of nowhere. He doesn't do anything. He just slides out. Matt is completely confused at this point. He turns around, and Sheamus hits the brogue kick onto Matt. 1, 2, 3, 1-0 immediately for Cesaro and Sheamus. I really like the way they started this. Good way to get some heat onto these guys right away and get people invested instantly. If it would have taken a long-ass time for that first pinfall to count, I think people would have been out of it. But this was a good way to get people excited right off the bat. Jeff then gets in. He hits a double drop kick to both Cesaro and Sheamus. We get some loud Brother Nero chants as Jeff fights off Sheamus. Matt then tags in and hits an elbow. He then starts beating Sheamus' head into the apron as the crowd chants delete. Matt hits a DDT, but Sheamus kicks out on the ensuing pin. Sheamus then throws Jeff out of the ring viciously. This looked horrible. I thought Jeff was absolutely hurt here, but he was not. Matt then starts fighting Cesaro on the outside. Things start breaking down at this point. Cesaro then gets in the ring with Jeff and has a nice hold into a slam for a near fall, really showing off the strength of Cesaro that we know and love. Sheamus then gets tagged in. He goes for a pin, but doesn't get it. Jeff is able to kick out. Still 1-0 at this point. Eventually, Sheamus hits a power slam to Jeff for another near fall. Cesaro and Sheamus then both clothesline Jeff. They go for a pin, but Jeff kicks out again. Jeff just completely getting dominated right here by both of these guys. Cesaro then goes up and blasts Matt Hardy off the apron with a boot, preventing any tag from happening. Sheamus and Cesaro then hit some tag team offense. Cesaro comes off the top rope, hitting Jeff in the process. 1, 2, 3. Now it's 2-0 Cesaro Sheamus. Jeff is just completely getting dominated in this match. And honestly, at this point, the crowd is pretty dead here. We're 12 minutes deep. The crowd is starting to fade here, which is what I kind of expected. Jeff dodges a shoulder tackle in the corner, and Sheamus goes into the post, shoulder first. This allows Jeff to finally get that tag to Matt. Matt starts beating down Cesaro's head into the apron. The crowd finally starts to wake up as Matt is beating Cesaro's head into each apron as it goes from the top, the middle to the bottom. Matt then hits a running bulldog, goes for a pin. 1, 2, Cesaro kicks out. Matt then tags in Jeff. They hit the poetry motion into the side effect and then into the twist of fate. So a complete trifecta there. Jeff goes for the pin on Cesaro. 1, 2, 3. It is finally 2-1. Matt and Jeff are on the board. 16:50 on the clock at this point. Jeff then starts beating down Sheamus in the corner. He goes for another pin, but Sheamus is able to kick out of that as well. There's another close pinfall on Sheamus from Matt, but Cesaro comes in and breaks it up. Matt then sets himself up like they're going for the poetry in motion, but instead, Jeff jumps off of Matt's back and flips over the top rope onto both Cesaro and Sheamus. Another big spot here. Matt is still legal, however. He tries throwing Sheamus into the ring, but Cesaro throws Matt face first into the post. The ref does not see it. Matt is out cold at this point. The ref then just gets to a 10 count all of a sudden as Matt is sprawled out on the outside of the ring, and that awards a point for Cesaro and Sheamus. So it is now 3-1, and there is 12:40 left in this match. This goes on for a little bit longer. Sheamus tags in. They both hit a suplex to Matt together. Sheamus goes for a pin, but Matt is able to kick out in 2. Matt now can't get the tag to Jeff. However, Matt is able to hit the side effect out of nowhere. He goes for a weak pin attempt onto Sheamus, but Sheamus is able to get the shoulder up at the last second. Cesaro then tags in and boots Jeff off of the apron. Cesaro then gets Matt into the sharpshooter, which if Matt would have tapped here, that would have been another point for Cesaro and Sheamus, so it would have been 4-1. However, Jeff is able to recover. He breaks up the hold. There's 7 minutes and 30 seconds left at this point. Matt then gets a backslide onto Cesaro, tags in Jeff. Jeff hits the splits onto Cesaro's legs. This was a crazy move, very creative stuff. He goes for the pin, 1, 2, 3, and they get it to 3-2 now. Jeff then immediately hits Whisper in the Wind onto Cesaro after this pinfall, but Cesaro kicks out this time. Still 3-2. Jeff is now fighting Sheamus in the ring. He gets another very close near fall. We're down to about 5:30 left. Sheamus hits a knee to Jeff, but Jeff tags in Matt here at the last second. Matt gets in, slips out of the rolling senton from Sheamus, hits a tornado DDT for a pin. 1, 2, Sheamus kicks out. Cesaro then tries to interfere, but Matt stops him here again. Sheamus gets the mat to the top post, but Matt elbows him off. Matt then hits the moonsault. 1, 2, for sure thought this was going to be a pin, but Cesaro breaks up the tying pin. Jeff then gets in, and he has to get Cesaro out of the ring. There's 3 minutes and 40 seconds left now. We're still at 3-2. We get loud ref you suck chants because of how many times this ref has missed the fact that Cesaro has been getting cheap shots on the opposing guy. Matt, meanwhile, hits a twist of fate off the top post, goes for a pin. 1, 2, 3. We are tied up. It is 3-3, and there's 2 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock. Everyone has got to start hurrying at this point to get that final pin. Jeff then gets to the top rope. Sheamus down below. Cesaro pulls Sheamus to the outside, but Jeff says fuck it, and he jumps on them anyway to the outside of the ring. We get loud delete chants here. The crowd is finally starting to wake up as this clock starts to dwindle down. There is 1 minute and 40 seconds left now. Jeff throws Sheamus back into the ring. Matt and Jeff both go to the opposite turnbuckles. They both hit splashes onto him. 1, 2, Sheamus kicks out. Thought for sure they were going to get the lead there, but Sheamus is able to kick out of that one. Matt is the legal participant, however, and somehow he gets cut open here, man. Matt is bleeding all over the place. There's blood dripping onto the mat. It's all over his face. Sheamus picks him up at one point, and blood is just all over Sheamus' shoulders, so I'm not exactly sure how it happened, but he got his nose completely fucked up here. He is bleeding everywhere. Matt and Sheamus both hit a clothesline to each other at the same time. Jeff then hits the Whisper in the Wind onto Sheamus. 1, 2, but guess what? Cesaro jumps in, breaks it up, and then he goes for a pin on Jeff. 1, 2, 3. It is now 4-3 in favor of Cesaro and Sheamus, and there is only 30 seconds left on this clock. Cesaro runs on the outside, trying to burn clock, just running away from Jeff, waiting for that clock to dwindle down. Jeff finally throws him back in the ring, but there just isn't enough time. Jeff goes for a pin, but the clock runs out before they can get the third tap. The clock runs out, and Cesaro and Sheamus win. Goddamn, that was a very long match. However, I have to say I actually got into this. I thought this was booked really well from the get-go. By having Cesaro and Sheamus go up 1-0 immediately really got my attention, and it really made Matt and Jeff fight as underdogs the entire match. I thought it was strange that they had the clock up there the entire time. A lot of the times in Iron Man matches, they don't keep the clock on the screen the entire match. They usually just keep flashing it up there every once in a while. But in the end, I actually kind of like this. It got me more interested because you knew that if that clock struck 0 and Matt and Jeff did not get that last point off of Cesaro and Sheamus, then they were not going to be able to get that victory. So, watching the clock and kind of feeling the anticipation build as that clock started to drain out, it made things more interesting and definitely made it feel like it wasn't this long, boring 30-minute match. And these guys went for 30 minutes, and they didn't look winded at all here. So really great athleticism and stamina out of all 4 of these guys. Overall, though, I'd have to say there weren't really, that many noteworthy or big defining spots that you would expect out of a Hardy Boys match. It was pretty much a typical Iron Man match is what I would have to say. It was pretty slow at parts, but obviously that is to be expected in a 30-minute long match. However, overall, this match definitely surpassed my low expectations. I'm still sick of seeing these teams paired against each other, though. Don't get me wrong. That fact still remains true. I do not want to see these teams fight anymore whatsoever. I thought Matt getting cut completely open here, I think that also helped to the match. Getting some blood in there obviously shows that these guys were going for a long time, and this was dangerous. The doctors even had to attend to him at the end, so this wasn't, fake capsule blood or anything. This was legit hard-way blood, guys. So, very interesting match. I was into it for the most part. I really do hope this is the end of seeing these two teams fight each other. I really hope we can get something new going and really reinvigorate this tag division on Raw. Because right now, man, tag matches and just tag teams in general on both shows are really, really lacking, man. They're breaking up all the tag teams. There's usually only 2 teams vying for the title for months on end. They really got to find a way to re-energize that division. And honestly, they've got to find a way to get the broken characters on TV because for me, like I said, the nostalgia of the Hardy Boys is waning at this point, guys. Every time they come on TV, all I'm thinking is, okay, are they going to be broken yet? Are they going to be broken yet? And they never are. So I'm hoping they can pay TNA, do whatever you have to do, WWE. We have to get the broken characters on WWE television ASAP. Next up, we have the 4th match, and that is going to be Sasha Banks versus Alexa Bliss for the Raw Women's title. Obviously, this is a match that I've always wanted to see. This is a fan favorite matchup here, and I really hope that these ladies can deliver. So far, this show has been pretty good. We started off with a couple matches that I necessarily wasn't that hyped for, but they ended up being pretty entertaining. So, can these ladies keep up the pace of the pay-per-view and put out a good performance? We will have to see. Look, we have a lot to cover on this show, guys, so I'm not going to go super in-depth into this one, mainly because there wasn't a whole lot to talk about, even though I really like this match in the end. The match starts off with a couple of lockups. Sasha gets a headlock or a head side lock onto Alexa, then Bliss hits a shoulder tackle. Sasha starts running the ropes. Alexa dodges a kick, then is able to hit Alexa to the outside. Sasha hits the double knees to Alexa in the corner, goes for a pin, but Alexa kicks out. And then this is where, I don't know how she did it, man, but Alexa's arm looked like it was broken or dislocated. She was pushing it out in such a way that it looked legitimately broken. I was like, holy shit, they're going to have to stop this match because her arm is fucked. It looked completely dislocated. It looked completely dislodged and broken. I have no idea how she did it. Maybe Alexa Bliss is double jointed or something, but her arm was completely fine because as soon as the ref starts tending to her and Sasha starts showing a little bit of compassion, Alexa immediately hits her with that elbow and goes into Sasha for her offense. I thought that was completely amazing. I thought it totally looked like Alexa broke her arm. It looked absolutely legit, and the crowd was even buying into it too because they zoomed in on her arm, and you could hear this crowd kind of fill with disdain. They were all just like, oh shit, that looks disgusting. But she was completely fine, man, and that is just another notch on Alexa Bliss because that just shows how talented she is, man. She's able to do something like that, get people to feel bad for her, and then all of a sudden turn it on us. So, very great performer, man. And in the end, Alexa does retain the title here, but we go on. We eventually have it to where Sasha gets the bank statement onto Alexa out of nowhere. Alexa gets into the center of the ring. She cannot get to the bottom rope. Eventually, she is able to crawl her way to the bottom rope and break the count. We get some battling chants for both of these women. Sasha throws Alexa into the barricade, Both women are just sprawled out on the outside. Eventually, Sasha throws her back in, but Alexa just rolls out of the ring again, really playing up that heel nature. Sasha tries to get her back inside, but Alexa hits the right hand to Sasha, sending her back to the mat. The ref is at a count of 8 at this point. 9, 10, count out victory. So Sasha technically wins. However, the belt still stays with Alexa Bliss. At the end of this match, Sasha runs and attacks Alexa on the ramp, throwing her into the screen. Alexa then throws Sasha into the announce desk. She starts clearing the table and is about to go for a DDT, but Sasha pushes her off the table. Then Sasha jumps from the top of the announcer's desk, hits the double knee onto Alexa from the outside from a long distance. Holy shit, this was a huge spot. And we end with Sasha Banks walking off strong and Alexa Bliss sprawled out on the mat, completely devastated. This was probably the best way to keep both of these women looking strong. The match itself was actually pretty good. I actually really liked this match, and I still think that these women have their best match ahead of them, though. This was still good, but I expected a little bit more. So I'm expecting this feud to continue. This is probably what we're going to get at SummerSlam. I think that Sasha obviously has a right to get a rematch, considering that Alexa just won by countout in the cheap heel way. That huge double knee at the end was a huge bump. That was crazy. And obviously these two girls kind of have some backstage drama with each other, so that also plays into this match. I like this match way better than that horrible fucking gauntlet match that we got on Raw, so I will take this all day over that gauntlet match. I am surprised though we didn't have a Nia Jax sighting at all tonight, but at the same time I'm kind of glad about that. She doesn't need to be the match at SummerSlam. She can wait. She still has a long way to go, guys. So what I want and what I hope we see at SummerSlam is Alexa Bliss versus Sasha Banks again for the rematch, and then maybe Sasha can take the title then. And then obviously we're inevitably going to set up for that Bayley versus Sasha match down the road. That is obviously where we are headed. So I do think that Alexa Bliss is going to have to drop that title to Sasha Banks at some point. Will they do it at SummerSlam, though? That remains to be seen. Michael Cole then advertises Battleground, which is coming up in 2 weeks, and then he mentions that U.S. title situation that happened at the house show. Definitely was not expecting him to mention it, but I'm glad that they did. Definitely excited to see what happens Tuesday, man. Like I said earlier at the top of the show, I wish Raw had shit like that happening, giving me a reason to tune in. That is something that the Red brand severely lacks right now, which is a hook to make people want to watch. And unfortunately, with this show, they really didn't leave us with any hooks either. So that is something that they need to work on for Raw. Next up, this was probably the weakest match of this card and the weakest match of the night. It is Miz versus Ambrose for the IC title. So right away, you can tell WWE is booking this pay-per-view to be top-heavy. They are waiting to do all their best, most anticipated matches at the end, and they are giving us all the other matches at the beginning. So it's a slow build for this finale. Miz comes out with his entire crew, Maurice and the Miztourage. Bo is dressed up like he's been working at a Harley repair shop, and Axel's dressed up like he's going to a wedding, looking completely polar opposite of each other. And there are 4 people on Miz's side and 1 on the other. So immediately I'm thinking, wow, I wonder if we're going to get some type of interference here. What do you think? Probably, right? And if Dean wins, this will be his 3rd time winning the IC title, which honestly I couldn't even believe it when they said that, because I don't even remember Dean ever holding the IC title. He never did anything of worth with it, so it blew my mind when they said that. The match starts. Miz tells where he wants Maurice and the crew to go, so they do. I thought that was a nice touch. He's kind of directing them. He says, all right, Bo, you go in this corner. Curtis, you go in this one. Maurice, you're over here. Kind of directing them and telling them where he wants them. Then Ambrose jumps out, attacks Axel. He gets back in the ring, beats down Miz for a bit. Then he rolls back to the outside and starts attacking Bo, obviously trying to take out the Miz's advantage early. Ambrose gets distracted, though, by a recovering Axel, and Miz is able to take control at this point. He hits a series of kicks onto Dean. Ambrose takes out Miz's legs, but Miz is able to hit a DDT onto Dean for a near fall. The crowd is completely dead at this point. No one is really popping for many of these spots at this point. Miz goes on to just kick Ambrose a bunch. There's a quick roll-up from Dean for a near fall. Ambrose nearly hits Dirty Deeds, but Miz is able to slip out. But Dean hits a swinging neck breaker instead. Dean gets Miz to the top post, hits a suplex for a very close near fall. Miz then sets up Dean to hang from the corner as he drop kicks him. He then goes for the drop kick a third time, but Dean gets back to his feet and hits a clothesline before he takes the drop kick. Dean somehow is also bleeding in this match. His mouth is completely filled with blood. This looked like fake blood. Not really sure when it happened, but very weird. Miz gets Dean in the figure 4, but he's able to break the hold. Dean really starting to sell the leg now. He can't even stand up at this point. Miz then goes for the yes kicks, or the it kicks, as Corey Graves likes to call them. And of course, like I said last week, he always misses that final kick. If you're ever watching a Miz match and he goes for the yes kicks, he'll do them, and then as he winds up for the final one, he always misses. And guess what, guys? He missed it here too. Dean just responds with a simple slap to the face, though. No big move out of Dean there. All of a sudden, Dean's leg is magically healed because he's able to head to the top rope and hit the elbow from the top post onto Miz for a near fall. Maurice then distracts the ref. Miz nearly gets the skull-crushing finale, but Dean is able to slip out. Then the Miztourage starts getting involved. They pull Dean to the outside. Dean then gets back into the ring, however, and dives from the top post onto all 3 men. Dean then hits the Dirty Deeds to Miz, goes for a pin, but as he does, Maurice puts Miz's foot onto the bottom rope, saving him at the last second. Then this completely breaks down. Bo gets involved. Dallas somehow kicks Dean in the back. Then Miz just grabs Dean, hits the skull-crushing finale, and it's 1-2-3, Miz wins. My thoughts here, really shitty match. I've seen way better matches out of both of these guys, Miz and Ambrose. This is obviously a rehashed rematch that we did not need to see, and it couldn't have had a shittier match as the culmination of another month of building. Just completely pointless in all facets here. The crowd was completely dead throughout the match until the end, and they have every right to be. We have seen this way too many times. These guys absolutely have to be separated. If we honestly get another one of these matches, a Miz and Ambrose match at SummerSlam, I refuse to review it. I will not watch that match. I'm sick of seeing these two guys fight. You have one of the strongest rosters in WWE history. You have so many talented guys, so many guys that could be fresh pairings, and for some reason, all we're getting constantly is the same fucking shit over and over and over, and this is the pinnacle of rehashed rematches, this Miz and Ambrose shit. We've been getting it since December. It never fucking ends, and it needs to. This has to be the end of it. I do not want to see Dean Ambrose fighting for the IC title anymore. Get a new pairing for The Miz, please. Next up, man, we head into match number 6, and it is what I would call the co-main event of tonight, and that is Roman versus Braun in the ambulance match. So here we go, guys. We're in it now. It's time for the good shit of this card. This is what we've been waiting for. We've had our meat and potatoes. We had to struggle through a little bit of vegetables, and now we're getting ice cream, and we're getting 2 scoops of ice cream. We're getting number 1, Roman and Braun, and we're going to end it with a cherry on top. We're getting Joe versus Lesnar. So this is a co-main event as far as I'm concerned, and I'm thinking that this match is going to wake this Dallas crowd up after having to see that boring as fuck Miz Ambrose match that we just had to endure. So we start off, obviously, Braun gets the huge babyface reaction from this Dallas crowd while Roman gets booed out of the building. Roman starts this match trying to beat down Braun, but he clotheslines Roman to the floor immediately. Roman getting huge boos as Braun getting that babyface cheer each time he hits Roman. Braun clotheslines Roman in the corner, then he starts staring down Roman, kind of stalking his prey in a way. There's a very loud Roman sucks, let's go Roman chant. Stroman then kicks Reigns to the outside of the ring. Braun looks to throw him into the barricade, but Roman is able to throw Stroman into the post instead. Braun then throws Roman's spine first into the post and then throws him into the steel steps. Obviously a no DQ match here. Stroman then takes the steel steps and hits Roman in the face with them multiple times. Roman then sidesteps Braun and he goes into the post again. They get back in the ring. Roman starts striking Stroman down. Roman really trying to knock down Braun, but he just can't. Braun catches Roman by the neck and just slams him into the ring. Roman then gets up. He starts hulking up in the corner, but Braun hits him with a boot as he approaches on him. Braun then awkwardly goes for a pin, which obviously is not going to work in an ambulance match. I'm not really sure what he was thinking there. Probably just pure instinct out of Braun here to go for a pin in a match, but obviously that's not going to work in an ambulance match. The only way to win is to put your opponent in the ambulance and have it drive away. So it was probably just a pure instinct moment out of Braun there. Braun then starts trying to drag and carry Roman near the ambulance, but Roman gets off his back and heads back into the ring. Stroman is pissed now. He charges at Roman, but he misses. Roman then gets Braun on his shoulders, and he hits a Samoan drop, which is pretty huge. Can't believe he's able to get Braun onto his shoulders like that. Then Braun immediately kicks out. Again, you're not going to get pinned here, Braun. I'm not sure why you're kicking out. Roman hits a drive-by to Braun's injured arm, ripping the wrap that he had on it and slamming it into the post, really kind of working over his arm in a heelish fashion here from Roman. Roman then starts looking under the ring. He finds a chair. He then bashes the chair into Braun's messed up elbow with that chair. Eventually, Roman hits Stroman with the chair, and Braun doesn't even flinch. He just completely no-sells it at this point. He's just absorbing these blows. Roman is looking very confused, very worried that Stroman is just accepting this chair, this bashing of the chair. Braun then catches the chair mid-swing and tosses Roman around near the ramp. They're both slowly getting closer to that ambulance, obviously working their way towards it. Stroman then throws Roman up the ramp, then into the screens at the top. Stroman heads for the announcer's desk. He starts clearing that off. Roman evades that, but Stroman throws Roman into the ambulance again, like we saw on Raw. Braun then opens the doors of the ambulance, pulls Roman near them, but as Braun is about to throw Roman in, Roman is able to get out and evades it. He throws Braun's face into the doors of the ambulance. Roman is now in control. He's trying to get Stroman into the ambulance. Braun then picks up Roman and tries to stuff him in, but Roman is clinging onto the sides of the door, completely refusing to get in that ambulance. Roman then hits a Superman punch onto Braun off of the ambulance and sends him halfway into it. He does it again, but Braun is just barely on his feet at this point. He's about halfway into the ambulance, halfway out of it. Stroman then busts out a stretcher, like backboard thing from the ambulance and starts beating down Roman with it several times. Stroman then throws Roman onto the ramp again. He runs at Roman, but Roman is able to dodge. Then Reigns sends Braun into the screens, and they go crashing through them, completely busting these LED screens here. The LED wall just has a huge chunk taken out of it. This was a huge spot in this match, and honestly, they kept teasing this throughout the week on Raw, whether it be in that Joe and Lesnar situation or even in this situation. So they finally got some screens that would bust here, and Braun goes crashing through them. So that LED wall is completely fucked at this point. Roman then tries to drag Braun into the ambulance, but Braun shoves Roman off the stage. Braun is just crawling at this point. He's really still affected from that LED collision. Roman then hits Braun with an LED light off to the side. He finds something off to the side and starts bashing Braun with it. Roman then heads for a spear onto Braun, but the doors are open. Braun dodges the spear, and Roman goes flying into the ambulance like a dumbass. Braun shuts the door, and Braun Strowman wins. However, obviously, Roman is not really, fucked up from this at all. He just missed the spear and went flying into the ambulance like an idiot. So then he comes out and jumps off of the back of the ambulance, finishing off the spear onto Strowman, completely destroying him. He then starts slamming the doors onto Braun. Then Roman throws Braun Strowman into the back of the ambulance, closes the doors, goes up to the driver's seat, throws the driver out onto the ground, gets in the ambulance, and starts driving it to the backstage area. He goes into the back. He then looks around, puts the ambulance in reverse, and goes full speed and crashes the ambulance into a trailer. Roman gets out, walks away. Kurt Angle and other backstage people come out, and they're trying to pry open the doors of the ambulance to get Braun out. They're obviously extremely worried about him. The back of the ambulance is completely smashed to shit. It's just completely destroyed. So far, man, my thoughts, this is fucking awesome. These guys absolutely just went out there and destroyed each other, which is what we expect out of Roman versus Strowman, right? This is a matchup that each time these guys go out there, they go out there and they try to kill one another. So great stuff out of these two guys, and honestly, I think they have amazing chemistry with one another in the ring. I really like that Braun ended up winning this match, but to be quite honest, man, for the first time in a long time, I felt like Roman looked like a real badass here by taking the ambulance and crashing it into that trailer, driving it himself and walking away. I thought that was really fucking cool. This is something that I can actually get behind Roman doing, and I think everyone can. You know, a lot of people have a whole laundry list of complaints when it comes to Roman Reigns. But this right here in particular was something that I was interested in, and I walked away from this feeling like, damn, Roman Reigns is kind of a badass now. It was a complete heel move to do, though. I mean, he was trying to kill Braun Strowman by crashing this ambulance. So that is a complete heel thing to do, and Braun Strowman ends up walking away looking like the babyface here, but obviously they don't want to switch Roman. They'll never actually do that. But regardless, man, Roman looked like a badass here by doing this. This match was just a whole lot of trying to knock Braun Strowman down, not being able to, then resorting to weapons, then crashing through the screens for the big spot. It was still a very cool match regardless, though. Still one of the highlights of the night, and honestly, this match was the highlight of the night for me. I think this match lived up to its billing. Obviously, this pay-per-view card is not over yet, and this whole segment is not quite over yet because they did some more later on in the show, which we'll get into now. Obviously, there's still a whole bunch of drama unfolding backstage as far as the ambulance goes. They cannot get Braun Strowman out of the ambulance. So all of a sudden, we have this impromptu match between Curt Hawkins and Heath Slater. Immediately, I'm thinking, okay, this is not going to be a real match. Either Braun or Roman are going to come out and interrupt this. I have no idea why they did this in the first place. It was really unnecessary. We start getting "We Want Balor" chants this whole time as Curt Hawkins and Heath Slater are fighting. No one cares about those two guys right now. Then all of a sudden we hear an ambulance siren. We then get a picture-in-picture of the match and the backstage stuff. So we're seeing the match going on in the ring also seeing the backstage stuff take place as well. They eventually just say fuck it. They give up on the match. They go full screen with the backstage stuff, and we hear Heath Slater wins, apparently, I guess. The other ambulance, though, that we hear isn't Roman driving it or isn't Braun. It's the actual ambulance from Dallas. They're coming in. They have the jaws of life. They're coming to extract Braun from the ambulance by cutting away the door, which immediately I'm thinking, well, why don't you just open the front door and get him from there? But I don't really know. Maybe it was closed from there. I'm not really sure. But as far as I know, an ambulance doesn't have like a cage there to separate the driver from the person in the back. But who knows, man. Anyway, Curt looks completely distraught at this point. His jaw is dropped. He cannot believe what is happening. They finally cut the thing open with the jaws of life. They try to put Braun Strowman on the stretcher. He is bleeding everywhere. His face, his mouth, his arm. But Braun is completely refusing help from the medics, crawling away from them, pushing them off of them, saying, "Leave me alone." And he basically just hobbles away into the night, and we don't see him again. So immediately I was thinking, okay, we're either going to see some more Strowman tonight. He's going to come back and try and kill Roman. If not, we'll probably see the fallout on Raw tomorrow. So if there is a hook in this show, it's this right here. We want to see what Braun Strowman is going to do to Roman Reigns on Raw now that he just tried to kill this man in that ambulance. This was a crazy, really, really long segment and spot. I honestly felt like they could have done this a little bit faster. I'm not really sure why they decided to have that quick Hawkins and Slater match while all this was going on, but it's whatever. Roman versus Braun is obviously not over. This is a match that we're going to continue to see for a while, and that is something I am actually cool with. Normally I hate that they do these rehashed rematches all the time, but this is a matchup that I always want to see, man. When those two guys go out there, they try to fucking kill each other, and that is the match that I've come to expect when I hear Roman versus Strowman. And that is exactly what happened in this match. Roman completely imploded that ambulance. That was a badass spot. Far different than a 30-minute Iron Man match. This is something that I will gladly watch again and again and again because these two guys go out there and they make this shit entertaining each time. Not only did this make Roman look badass for once, it was a very heelish move. Like I said, he tried to fucking kill Stroman here, which is not something that you would see out of a babyface. This isn't something that Sami Zayn would go do. This isn't something that AJ Styles would go do. This is something straight out of a heel's playbook, so it will be interesting to see where they go on Monday Night Raw. Obviously, I'm not expecting Roman to turn heel. That is something we've been talking about for fucking years now, and they will not do it, so I'm not expecting that here. But who knows, man? It looks like Braun Strowman is the complete babyface in this feud, and this is not going to be over yet. As Braun Strowman would say, he is not finished with you yet, and I have a feeling that we're not finished with this match or this feud quite yet. So guys, we head into our main event, and that obviously is going to be Samoa Joe versus Brock Lesnar for the Universal title. This is the match that we've all been waiting for. The crowd better wake the fuck up after all that crazy shit. Obviously, everyone has, been sitting there watching this whole dramatic ordeal unfold. They better get ready for an epic-ass fight, though. That's all I'm going to say. Unfortunately, I started having some WWE Network issues here. It was all fine through the night. I had to sit through all that boring-ass shit, all that other garbage, and then when we get to the match that I want to see, it starts fucking up and lagging out. So I eventually had to wait for WWE to upload the pay-per-view so I could go back and watch. I had to avoid my phone and the WWE homepage like the plague in fear of spoilers, because that is one thing, man. If you go to WWE.com right after a pay-per-view, that first thing on their page is going to be a huge spoiler. So if you go to WWE.com and try to go to the network from there, you're going to see a spoiler. So I highly, highly recommend you do not do that. I've had it ruin matches for me in the past that way, so I had to find a specific way in order to avoid all spoilers there, including throwing my phone off to the side. Anyway, as we start this match, Brock is holding up the title, and before the bell rings, Joe attacks Brock Lesnar from behind. He sends him to the outside, he slams him into the barricade, then slams him into the announcer desk, completely shattering it. Brock is completely dazed at this point. He can't even stand up. We start getting "Joe is gonna kill you" chants from this Dallas crowd. Lesnar eventually gets back into the ring. The announcers are saying, man, should he even fight at this point? He probably shouldn't even get in there. But the bell does end up ringing. Joe hits the elbow, then an enziguri to Lesnar in the corner. Joe hits some knees to Lesnar. Then Lesnar starts hitting Joe with knees of his own. Both are grappling and jockeying for position at this point. Really kind of like a UFC MMA style jockeying for position here. Really trying to, submit, grab each other and get in control. We get very loud Joe chants here. Obviously, this crowd wants to see Joe walk away with this title. Lesnar then hits Joe with the shoulders and the knees in the corner again. Joe then gets the coquina clutch locked in, but Lesnar is able to grab the ropes. But for some reason, the ref doesn't break the hold here. Neither does Joe, so I'm not really sure what the deal was with that. Lesnar then just throws Joe into the post off of his back. Lesnar then hits a German onto Joe 3 times in a row. Typical Lesnar stuff there. Lesnar then goes for a 4th German suplex, but Joe holds onto the ropes and gets a low blow onto Lesnar. The official didn't see it. There's an Uranagi to Lesnar for a near fall. Joe then goes back into the coquina clutch. Brock is fighting out of it, but Joe can't lock it in. Eventually, Joe does get it cinched in. Lesnar's face starts to turn purple. Brock, though, is able to pick up Joe and slam him for a reversal. Brock goes shoulder first into the post. Joe comes from behind, but Lesnar slides under Joe's legs and hits a German suplex. This was a really cool spot out of Lesnar. Was not expecting something like that. Really showing off some more athleticism from him. Something that we rarely get to see in Brock Lesnar matches. Lesnar hits a few more German suplexes to Joe. Lesnar then goes for an F5, but Joe is able to slip out of it, and he gets the coquina clutch in. Lesnar is in complete trouble at this point. Lesnar then drives Joe into the corner, but the clutch is still locked in. Lesnar goes to one knee. Lesnar starts to fade. His face is turning purple. It's turning red. Lesnar's down on both knees at this point. And out of nowhere, Lesnar just picks up Joe, hits an F5, 1, 2, 3, Lesnar wins. Guys, this was not the match that I was expecting. It started off hot. I thought it was going exactly where I wanted it to go. But when they got in the ring, I'm not really sure what happened, man. These guys were going all out. This was a brawl sort of match. But in the end, it ended up being just a typical Brock Lesnar match with a random F5 out of nowhere. and he wins. I didn't like this match, and I didn't like the finish at all. This was really short. Most of it was spent, recovering on the outside after that table spot that Joe gave to Lesnar. That's where a lot of this time was spent. I felt like this match overall was pretty cookie cutter, to be honest. It felt like they lacked chemistry at points. There were no real punches or, strong style, no UFC style fighting here, which is what I was expecting. I was expecting Joe to punch Lesnar in the face, or Lesnar to punch Joe in the face. That's what I was expecting, and I'm not sure if that's on me. I'm not sure if I was just overhyping this match, thinking it was going to be more UFC MMA style fighting, but that is not what we got here, man. We got a tease of the clutch multiple times, Lesnar nearly going out to it, and then just out of nowhere, Lesnar hitting the F5 for the win. That's what I really don't like. I don't like that Lesnar was basically down on both knees, about to have to either pass out or tap out, and then all of a sudden he just regains his energy completely, hits an F5, and pins him. Joe did look very strong in this match, don't get me wrong. Even though he lost, he still looks strong, and he looks like a legitimate competitor for that title right now. But I just think that the ending was very lackluster for a build that was absolutely fantastic. I mean, if you look at the build that we obviously had the brawl between both guys where they had to be separated in the ring. That started off things very nicely. We had the choke onto Paul Heyman. We had the choke onto Lesnar. And then obviously the interview segment last week on the Go Home show. I just don't think that this match actually lived up to the build that WWE put on. So I don't necessarily think it was just me thinking, building this up in my head, thinking it was going to be more than it was. I think WWE failed to capitalize off the build that they put into this match. This was just basically, basic Lesnar offense out of one or two surprises, and he just randomly ends up winning with an F5. Like I said, Joe did look strong here. He looks like a real threat to Brock, but the ending just really fell flat, and honestly, the crowd really didn't react at all that much when Lesnar was down on one knee about to tap to the clutch. I mean, they probably felt like Brock was going to win. They probably knew that was happening, and they were just expecting it. And obviously, this has been a very long night, so I don't blame them. But I think this match was built extremely well, and the ending just did not leave me feeling satisfied. I really wish it would have been a longer match. These guys maybe went about 7 minutes, I believe. So, I don't know, man. This might just be on me, not sure. But I did walk away feeling from this match a little let down. I was expecting more something along the lines of what we got in that Braun and Roman match where they just tried to kill each other. I was thinking that Joe and Brock were going to do that times 10. But this just ended up being a match where it was just kind of a typical Brock match with a little bit of Joe sprinkled in. I'm really hoping that we can get another match out of these two because I do think that they can do better than this. Overall, though, I think Great Balls of Fire was a decent show. I really wish Joe would have won. Dallas would have fucking erupted, and they would have had a serious hook for us to watch Raw on Monday. But I think it's pretty obvious that they want to keep that title onto Brock and have him go face Roman at SummerSlam or WrestleMania, whatever they decide to do. So overall thoughts, guys, on this show. This pay-per-view had a very, very stacked card. There were some matches on this pay-per-view that got me excited by just thinking about them, regardless of build. Obviously, Roman and Stroman, Lesnar and Joe, Sasha and Alexa, those are matches that I didn't really care about the build all that much. I was going to be excited for them regardless. I think a lot of those matches ended up living up to the hype, while the main event just felt a little flat for me, unfortunately. They really built this thing up to be a legitimate fight, and I mean, we kind of got that. We got a little taste of it, but I just wanted more of it. It was like I got, a little taste of some ice cream, but now I want a whole bowl. Maybe we'll get more of that. Maybe we'll head into a rematch at SummerSlam. Obviously, plans as far as that card goes are still up in the air. But in the end, man, I just can't help but feel a little disappointed by that Joe Lesnar match, even though I think Joe is going to walk away looking stronger than he did, even though he lost. He looks like a real contender to Joe. I just did not like the finish, and I wish that the match would have lasted longer, and I wish things would have been a little bit more intense, considering these two guys both have UFC, MMA backgrounds. I wish they could have tapped into that a little bit more and really brought out that edge that they both have. Like I said, there were some matches on this card that surprised me, though. That Sheamus and Cesaro Hardy's match ended up being pretty fun in the grand scheme of things, even though I'm still sick of seeing those two guys go at it, or those four guys go at it, I should say. I think this match was actually pretty entertaining, and even though it was 30 minutes long, it really didn't feel like 30 minutes, so decent job out of those guys there, even though I hope that that is the end of that feud as well. Alexa Bliss and Sasha, they had a decent match out there. I think it's obvious that they're going to continue to feud for a while, and I think that's good because the build that they got for Great Balls of Fire really only lasted about 2 weeks. I think if they let these girls go out there for a whole month and, really build up a feud that can culminate at SummerSlam, I think that they will really give us a match that is incredible, and that is something that I really, really want to see. And I do think that Sasha is probably going to get that title back at SummerSlam, regardless of who she faces. We may even see a rematch on Raw tomorrow, so who knows, man. We will have to wait and see. I think those two ladies, though, have a future ahead of them and a feud that could last for a while, so be prepared for that. I was really surprised that Bray Wyatt got a win tonight. He desperately needed that win. I just really hope that this doesn't start up like a 3-month-long feud between him and Seth Rollins. That is not something that I want to see. I'd rather Bray go on to beat somebody else now, because he really needs that more than anything. He needs to regain some confidence, and maybe we can start fearing the face of fear once again if he's able to go on and beat some more competitors. If he goes and beats Balor, I think a lot of people would be really pissed, but honestly, I think that would help Bray Wyatt a shit ton and really elevate him back up to be a devastating heel. Roman and Braun, I think they stole the show tonight. That was a very long segment, including all that ambulance stuff, but in the end, like I said, those guys always go out there and they cause mayhem. They try to kill each other, and that is what gets us all so intrigued about their matches. Each time they go out there, you know they're going to do something crazy. They're going to do something that nearly kills both of them. That LCD screen spot was fucking awesome. The ambulance stuff, all of that was great. It was all 100% entertaining. And you know Stroman wants his revenge on Roman, and we are going to get to see that on Raw, hopefully. So I'm hoping that is what we get on Raw tomorrow. And of course, guys, like I said, man, I was really hyped for that Joe Lesnar match. I don't know if it was just me or if it was actually the match. I'm not sure. I thought it was going to be a legit-ass fight. More of a, MMA-styled brawl, but we really didn't get that, unfortunately. We just got that typical Brock match with a little bit of Joe sprinkled in. Like I said, though, Joe still looks strong, but Brock just randomly getting off an F5 out of nowhere is just really boring and really stereotypical, and I just can't help but feel a little bit let down after that match, after being so hyped up about it. It just didn't last long enough, and the ending was pretty shitty, so I don't know, man. I just hope we can get another rematch out of those guys and they can do something a little bit more along the lines of what I was expecting rather than what we got. In the end, though, guys, I did like Great Balls of Fire, even though it was completely predictable. We had 0 title changes like I thought. I think that is kind of shitty in the end. You obviously want something that is going to make people want to tune in, and I don't really think they did anything to progress the storyline tonight. It was all pretty much, exactly what we thought was going to happen. I do walk away from this show feeling a little let down because of the lack of a good finish for Joe and Lesnar. That's what kind of leaves me scratching my head here as far as, where to grade this pay-per-view. After all the build, after all the drama and all the storylines, the match just didn't quite live up to the build. So, in the end, man, I'd have to say Great Balls of Fire is probably about a B-, C+ area sort of pay-per-view. There were some good matches, don't get me wrong. Like I said, there were matches that surpassed my expectations, but in the end, man, I just think that last match that we got really kind of soured us. If they would have switched those two matches, if they would have left us with Roman and Braun to headline the show, I think that would have changed my thoughts on this pay-per-view a little bit more. It would have been a for sure B+ or B-, but the way it ended, I just have to feel like it's more of a C- pay-per-view here for Great Balls of Fire. So that is our review, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. We will be back tomorrow with our review of Raw to find out the entire fallout of this Great Balls of Fire pay-per-view card. Are we going to see Stroman and Roman go at it again? Is Stroman going to get his revenge tonight? Will Brock have an appearance? What will he say about the Joe fight? there's a lot of stuff to tackle on that Raw, so I'm hoping that they can give us a good show and give us something that has been way better than what we've been getting the past few weeks, because the past couple of weeks of Raw have been kind of shitty. So hoping they can really step it up and really give us a nice fallout from this pay-per-view tomorrow. As always, guys, you can follow us on Twitter at @ramble_cast. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page, where you're going to get the highest quality episodes we have to offer, and of course our entire backlog of episodes if you ever miss one. Check us out on Podbean. That way you can listen to us on the go wherever you are at royalrambleradio.podbean.com. And yeah, guys, that was our review of Great Balls of Fire. I am your host, Zach Stevens, and I am out. Peace.